Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Today we're going to shift gears a little bit and take a look at the Ranger by FMS. I was very excited when FMS contacted me to review the Ranger because Freddie has expressed some interest in flying fixed wing, if you can believe that. And I don't really have a good trainer set up that I could use to put Freddie on a buddy box and teach him. This FMS Ranger is a perfect fit for that use case. So my intention is to get the plane up and running, do the maiden, and then get Freddie on it and teach him how to fly fixed wing planes with this FMS Ranger. Before I get into the content, I need to let you know this video is sponsored by FMS, who sent the Ranger out for review. I'll have affiliate links in the description if you'd like to buy one of these planes for yourself. And just be aware, if you use my affiliate links, the channel gets a little bit of a kickback, but that's paid by FMS, not by you. So it doesn't cost you anything extra to use my affiliate links. I left the airplane in the box because I wanted you to see how FMS packs everything. They use these styrofoam separators to separate the EPO foam so none of the parts on the fuselage, wing, or the radio equipment touch each other during shipment, and that keeps things protected for you. With that said, I'll go ahead and take it out of the box off camera. Now I've got the plane out of the box. Before we start looking at the model itself, let's talk a little bit about specs first. This is the ready-to-fly version, and it sells for $249. They also have a plug-and-play version with floats, and this one, the ready-to-fly, did come with the floats, so we'll get into that in just a little bit. But they have a plug-and-play with floats for $209, and they've got a plug-and-play without floats for $189. So if you don't need the floats, you can save a little bit of money there. The plug-and-play version includes the ESC, the motor, and the servos, and then the ready-to-fly version adds the receiver, the transmitter, a battery, and a charger. And we'll get into the battery and the charger in just a little bit. Power-wise, this is a 3136 1200 kV spinning a 10x5 prop, and it uses a 20 amp Predator ESC, and again, the battery 3-cell 1300. Now, given that this plane is targeted at beginners, I expected the manual to be fairly comprehensive, and it is. It looks kind of thick, but don't worry about that. There's extra languages in there. And if you turn to the English section, you can see that we've got black and white diagrams and instructions. I'd say based on a cursory look, the instructions look fairly comprehensive. There's a lot of information in here about how to set up the gyro, how to assemble the plane, obviously, and how your control surfaces should work after you get everything assembled. So it looks like a decent enough manual. I don't have any problems with that. It's comprehensive enough. There's a page here for beginners. It talks about how to find a suitable flying site, how to take off, how to fly the plane, and it also discusses things like performing a range check on the radio system before you go flying. All good information. And then in addition to the airplane model manual, there's also a little manual for the FSI-4X radio that comes with the plane. Again, this is a ready-to-fly version. Now, regarding the transmitter, it's a very basic transmitter. It's not computerized. It's got a simple power switch and a couple servo reversing switches, a bind button, and only 2 switches up top. And one is a 3-position, and that one's a 3-position. And then, of course, the gimbals and 4 trim switches. So everything you need for a basic 5-channel setup like the Ranger. Let's get into the hardware. First up is the fuselage, and we'll take a look inside, and there it is. The guest of honor is a FlySky IA6B receiver, and that is already connected, it looks, via PWM to the reflex gyro and the ESC lead right there for the batteries. So regarding the internal wiring, everything is already set up and you're ready to go. In front of the radio compartment, there's a little battery hatch so you can plug in your battery without taking off the wings. It also includes a Velcro strap for your battery and some Velcro on the battery plate to secure the battery to the airframe. So nicely done. Looks like the battery is very easy to access, and to replace the cover, you simply slide it in and just give it a push until it clicks, and you're latched down and ready to fly. Up front, you can see the prop is already installed with the spinner. All I have to do is put the nose cone on. And then one of the real interesting traits about this plane that I saw is the landing gear. The nose gear is sprung. So if you come in and prang it in on the nose gear, you're not going to be bending up your gear all the time. And hopefully that'll help save the mounting bracket for the nose gear so you won't be constantly repairing the plane. On the bottom of the plane, there are slots for things like the float supports and the main landing gear if you're using the wheels. And then on the back, there is ventilation coming out the back, but I don't really think that's big enough. It probably should be opened up a little bit more. And then finally, on the bottom, you've got the saddle for the elevator, and I do see some brass inserts. So the screws that go in and hold that on, they use brass inserts to hold onto the elevator. The rudder itself is formed into the fuselage, so you don't have any work to do there. And the control rods are already connected to the servo horns, and they even put the heat shrink tubing on the clevis, which I really like. That's a good strategy to make sure everything stays secure on the plane. Overall, the fuselage looks really good. Next up are the wings, and these are standard wings with ailerons, no flaps on these, and you can see on the bottom they've got some 9-gram FMS digital servos installed, and again, the linkages are already established with the heat shrink around the control horn and the servo wire running out to the edge. And of course, the support strut is already affixed to the wing as well, and that looks like it just pops into the fuselage in a catch down below. Just taking a look at the leading edge of the wing, I don't see any problems there. Everything looks, yeah, it looks very straight to me. And it looks like the same story on the trailing edge. Everything looks straight. I don't see any wing warp or twist, so everything looks like it's correct there. The ailerons actually look like they're fairly authoritative for this type of plane. They're kind of long. They go about 2/3 the length. And if you wanted to add flaps, it'd be a very simple matter just to cut right here on the line, put a servo in, hinge the flaps. So you can add flaps to this plane very easily if you wanted to. Not a hard job at all. All right, here's a look at the port wing. I don't see any issues here either. Leading edge looks nice and straight. The wing strut is taped down. We've got the Ranger logo down there on the bottom. And I also like the little checkerboard over here on the side. If you're a novice, these indicators tend to be very helpful in the air with orientation. So seeing a checkerboard pattern out here on the wingtip, very helpful when you're trying to work on your orientation. And of course, the servo is already connected to the aileron control horn with the clevis and fuel tubing around the clevis to keep things latched in. So very well done. I like it. I like the yellow color scheme too. I think the yellow, blue, and white, that's also going to be very good for orientation on this plane while you're flying. So I am very happy with the color scheme on this one. There's a look at the horizontal stabilizer. Again, everything looks nice and straight. They are EPO hinges, and you know, we actually had some dialogue about this on Discord. Here's the deal on EPO. If you're going to fly a plane for any period of time, these EPO hinges on every single EPO plane I've ever had, it's not brand specific, they'll eventually come loose because it's a very small surface area keeping this control surface on. So what I like to do if I have an EPO plane that I plan on flying, a lot of times I'll just cut this control surface right off and I'll hinge it the correct way. I'll use some kind of mechanical hinge, either a CA type hinge or an actual pin hinge. So just keep that in mind with EPO foam, you want to do that. Another option I like to use is Blenderm tape. I'll put a link for Blenderm in the description, but Blenderm is basically like this clear surgical tape, and if you completely deflect the control surface and then lay Blenderm down in the groove, the Blenderm will help keep the control surface attached to the stabilizer as well. So just a little pro tip, if you're flying EPO planes, eventually these hinges will let go. It doesn't matter what brand it's on, they all do it. On the underside of the stabilizer, we've got a plastic torque tube that connects the two elevator halves, one control horn, and then a plastic housing for the capture screws that hold this control surface on the airplane. So that's it on the elevator. I don't see any issues here. Let's move on. Next up are the landing gear, and they are pre-assembled. No wheel pants on this one, so I don't see any wheel pants. So it looks like if you're into wheel pants, you might have to source an alternative solution. But the wheels are already attached and they spin freely, and that just saves time when you're putting this together. So it's aluminum landing gear, fairly lightweight, not much to it. And it looks like it's got a nice wide stance on the ground. So it should be stable while you're taxiing around on the ground. Last up are a couple hangers for the floats and some control rods. I'm not sure what these do yet. We'll figure it out during the assembly process, but you also get these two control rods. All right, next up is the charger. This is a simple balance charger only. There is no mains connection on this other than the AC plug itself, which is right here. They do include the AC cable and a charger. So this looks like a 1 amp 3S charger. There are a couple LED indicators to let you know what's going on in terms of being in standby mode, charging, and when the battery is actually full. Now, before you ask, it's not a high-end charger that you can use to charge your 6-cell 5000 helicopter batteries, but it'll do fine for a little 1300 3-cell, which is the battery used in this plane. Remember, this is just to get you started. There's also a couple of purple anodized stick ends for the radio, and there's a binding plug for the FlySky IA6 receiver in the plane. Okay, here's the hardware bag, and one quick little note about this. It's on the bottom of the styrofoam box. Initially, I thought I didn't get a hardware kit, but after looking through the box, I found it taped to the bottom. So just keep that in mind. When you first get a Ranger, look for the hardware on the bottom of that styrofoam box, not inside with the plane. The hardware kit looks fairly typical. I see a couple of zip ties, some servo extensions, clamps for the floats, wing screws, and a little beauty cover for the landing gear. So nice little hardware kit. Doesn't look like too much, which means it won't take too much time to put it together. That wraps up my first look at the FMS Ranger. Next up, we'll get it built and over to the field where I'll do a maiden video. I'll probably fly it around for a little bit and have a little fun. I think this might be a kind of a cool little plane to fly. And then we'll put it in Freddie's hands. We'll let him fly it around for a little while and see how he does. We'll see how he does doing takeoffs and landings, and we'll let him try the gyro out and see how that works for him as well. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. We are going to put this plane in the hands of a novice pilot, and we'll see what his thoughts are. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, make sure you smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know new videos hit the channel. YouTube should recommend another video for you just about now. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy, and get out there and fly something. Hey, if you like the work I do here on RC Video Reviews, please consider joining me on Patreon. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help me keep making videos just like this one. If you'd like to help out, there's a link in the description and on your screen. Yeah, this is definitely a change. This is definitely a change of pace for the channel. We're looking at I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at a trainer for the channel. Oh my gosh. I was actually very excited when FMS offered this Ranger for review because it's a ready-to-fly box. I was actually very excited to take a look. Initially, we'll be using... I was very excited when